All right. Everyone, welcome so much to our lunchtime lunch and learn about the Info 294 and Mara 294 internship elective. This is going to be a wonderful discussion time for you to work with your faculty advisors for this class and hear from one of our internship site supervisors and a recent internship student. So we'll go ahead and get started with our agenda. Today we've just completed our welcome. We'll have Dr. Harlan and Dr. Hofman introduce themselves. We'll talk about the benefits of taking this elective. What does this option entail? Who's eligible? How to prepare for finding and enrolling in your 294 course. And then we'll hear an internship supervisor perspective. And we'll have a student perspective and an open Q&A with panelists. So that's a lot to get into for 1 hour. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dr. Harlan.
Hello and welcome. I'm going to admit up front that I am a little bit of a newbie to the uh, internships because I have just taken them over this semester, although I've had fabulous mentorship from Dr. Main, so I think I have a handle on it. So, Sheila, do you want to give time for Dr. Hoffman to introduce herself, or shall we just move on to the next slide?
As you wish.
I'm going to have Darra introduce herself when we get to Darra's slides. Dr. Hoffman, okay. So can you move to the next slide? So we want to talk a little bit about the benefits of doing an internship and why, you should maybe consider this as part of your MLIS or MARA degree. I mean, the most obvious, of course, is that you develop real world skills through actually doing them. Sorry, I'm working on my camera a little bit here. Um, uh, so it allows you to build your resume in your desired field. So when you go out job hunting, you have something on your resume that's in your desired field. You're able to develop mentoring relationships, and these are very important because they do have a tendency to last, throughout your career. And it also allows you to build networking opportunities within the field. You can get references from your internship supervisors. I've had some job opportunities already this one semester pop open. And so there's some ways to build networking. And, there's also just the general ability to explore different areas of interest. Maybe you think you want to work in a library archive, and it turns out maybe that's not much for you, or you think you want to be a children's librarian, but those 5-year-olds are pretty much not your jam. So, this gives you a chance to maybe explore that a little bit if what your fields of interest, especially if you take it kind of relatively early on in your MLIS journey or your MARA journey. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means, like what the requirements are a little later on. Let's go to the next slide. So there are a lot of different internships out there and from a lot of different fields. And slide is really just an example of some of the different places that you can work. We have internships with all kinds of different CSU campuses, UC campuses. We also have them with private organizations like that. One down on the corner is a queer archive that we work with. We have the Button Museum. That's that thing up on the upper left. And they usually take multiple internees that, research the buttons and provide some information on provenance. We also work with the Smithsonian that's a massive institution. Although this semester that would have been interesting since the government shut down, like, you know, interfered a little bit, but our government interns are still getting their job done. And then things like the Museum of Maritime Pets, which, yes, I did not know that that existed. I didn't know a button museum existed until I started being internship coordinator. And I'm super fascinated by all of that. So, anyways, those are just some of the ideas. And we have a huge database. I'll show you the interface in a little bit. Of all these different places. I mean, I did not put up the public libraries because those don't have really fun logos, but we have public library interns, there's private school internships, there's a number of different types of internships. Next slide. So now I know you all want to work for the Museum of Maritime Pets. What does it mean that what are the requirements to be apply for an internship or to take the internship course? So in the Master's of Library and Information Science class, you have to have your core classes 200, 202, 203, and 204, as always, out of the way, and 9 units of elective. So you have to have 19 completed units. You can um, apply for an internship and register for the internship course if you have units in progress towards the 19 completed units. Um, Dr. Hoffman will talk more about this, but in MARA, you have to be in good academic standing, and you have to have completed MARA 200, 204, and 6 advanced courses. If you're a postmaster certificate student, you have to have 203 out of the way, and you can only take it once, or for 3 units, I should say. So internships are both paid and unpaid. The majority of them are unpaid, but we do have some paid internship availability. They require, you can choose to do a 2 unit, 3 unit, or 4 unit internship. And if you're doing 2, it's 90 hours. If it's 3, it's 135. And if it's 4, it's 180. They are credit, no credit. So they don't like add into your GPA in a particular way. You can only enroll in one internship per semester, but that doesn't mean you can't retake internships because you can take a maximum of 8 units of internship credit towards the MLIS degree. I'm really sorry. No, you can't do an internship at your regular place of employment. If you work in a very large institution and you're switching departments, sometimes that is approved. You cannot do the same internship site twice. And you have to kind of spread those hours out through the semester. All of this information about eligibility is in our internship handbook, which is at that URL. And there's a lot of detail in there about like how you apply for an internship and what you do once you've acquired an internship and the process that you go through from there and what the course requires. Next slide. It is a 16-week internship in fall and spring and 10 in the summer. Same as the normal sessions. Um, and yes, if you are in the MLIS, you only need those 19 units. What you're looking at right here at that previous URL, and Sheila will send out the slides, is our internship database. So you can search by the type of organization you want to work in, archives or non-archival. Um, Maybe there's a specific institution that's close to you that you're curious if they have an internship already listed in, like say you live in San Jose and you want to see what is listed at our Martin Luther King Library. You can search by that. Maybe you want to just look around you where you are located. It can be virtual, so you might want to search by that as well. And maybe you are like, oh God, I could use a little extra money, so I'm only going to search paid internships. So there's all kinds of different ways to search for our internships. You can also set up your own internship. That's a little bit more of an involved process. And if that is the process that you're going to do, you will need to reach out to me to connect me with whoever the site supervisor will be on that. But this, if you're interested in an internship, is an excellent place to start. And the next slide, let me see. So once you get an internship, you will work with your site supervisor. You will work with your site supervisor to develop course learning outcomes. I see your question, I'll come back to it. And then over the course of the semester, while you are completing your internship, and this is important, this is a class. So there are class assignments that go along with it. There are 3 status or activity reports that you will complete. And one of them is kind of fun. It's a multimedia presentation that sort of is a day in the life. This is what I do as an intern. And then you also will do a final report that is based on those learning outcomes that you came up with, identified for the internship. And there's directions in the internship handbook, back at that URL I mentioned, that teach you how to write course learning outcomes and walk you through how you do that. So don't freak out about like, oh, I have to come up with course learning outcomes and then I have to write a final report based on them. I will also say, I just met with somebody today. Course learning outcomes are a little bit of a roadmap, so I am open to some small adjustment to them as necessary throughout the semester. Say the government shuts down. So these are all things to kind of keep in in mind. So um, I think Darra answered the question, and I think I got mine in the thing. Next slide. And I am now going to turn it over to our wonderful Dr. Hofman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harlan. Hi, everybody. I'm Darra Hofman. I am the MARA program coordinator. And for MARA, it's a little bit different. We do have the 294, and Dr. Harlan is the supervisor for internships under 294 as well. But we also have 295, which includes organizational consulting projects and professional projects. So let me talk about it a little bit. So you do need to do some planning ahead, please, and thank you if you want to take an internship. Please do not email me or Dr. Harlan on the first day of the semester and say you want to do an internship that semester. That goes poorly. And so in MARA, like I said, we have the three options. For the postmasters, you have to have done 203. And as you can see here, you want to target sometime around 4 to 6 weeks to submit your application before the semester starts. So you really do need to be ahead of time for getting these. And some of the internships are quite competitive. I know that the MoMA, the San Francisco MoMA, is very competitive. All the MARA students want to do that one, and they always get lots of applications. And so it's also good to have a few different plans in mind, and a few different internships that you might be willing to do. And that's something that I am always happy to discuss with you. I would assume Dr. Harlan's happy to talk to the MLIS about what internships are most appropriate for you. As you can see, my email's here, and I also have a Calendly where you can just pop onto my calendar and not have to do the, can you do Tuesday? No, how about Wednesday? No, we don't like that. So would you please do the next slide? And so the first option for MARA students who want a professional experience is the internship, as I said, and then we have the organizational consulting project and the professional project. And the really nice thing about all of these is that and I see your question, Michael, give me just a moment, is that we have an arrangement for MARA students where after doing the program, you get credit for 5 of the 6 ICRM exams towards your certified records management certification, which is quite valuable. I think in their latest survey, CRM start in the low 6 figures, so that's not bad. And that requires also 1 year of work experience in the field. By doing an internship, you get credit for that 1 year of work experience. So it's very valuable for MARA students who can do it to do one of the professional experiences. And when it comes to getting an advantage over the competition, trying to get as many opportunities to show your work quality as you can over the semester, really paying attention to the application, what they're looking for, and how you can bring your previous experience to bear to the role. In MARA, of course, a lot of folks who come in have been in the field for quite a while, but not all. But a lot of folks say we're teachers. And so if you're a teacher, I know that you can manage people and that you have organizational skills that are next level, right? And so it's thinking about what you bring to bear that really would make you the right person for that internship. Next slide, please. And so the first option is the internship. This is, under Dr. Harlan's supervision, and you have to have done 19 units, including MARA 200 and 204. And it's 135 hours for the 3 units over the semester, very much the same as the MLIS one, just in more appropriate places. Next slide, please. The next thing we have available, and this is for students who are coming into the program with at least 3 years of work experience in the field is what's called our organizational consulting project. This is done with someone, with a supervisor who is a certified records manager, and you in this one have to have the permission of me, the 295 instructor, to be able to take this. And so you have to get a recommendation letter from one of your instructors and verify your experience. And basically, over the course of the semester, you do a project that the organization would typically hire a consultant to do. And again, does count, same as the internship, for that credit for the CRM, and has the similar requirements. You have to do a final report and 3 status reports and the 135 hours over the semester to get your project done. Next slide, please. And finally, we have the professional project. This is similar to the organizational consulting project. This is for students who don't have those 3 years of experience. Again, you will do a particular project that has been submitted by an employer over the course of the semester. You'll submit your learning report and all of that. And these OCP and professional project both get done under that 295 bucket. And so I'm your supervisor for those. And so it's a little bit complicated with Mara. We have 294s under Dr. Harlan's supervision and 295s are under me. Next slide, please. And so please, process matters, plan ahead. As you can see, this is a screenshot of part of the application. And the very first 2 things it says are, I have read the student checklist and I have read the appropriate handbook. I have put the links in here so that you can read said handbooks, because a lot of the questions that folks have are answered in said handbooks. That said, if you read it and you don't find the answers, then please do feel free to reach out. So for example, OCP is similar to internship in that you can't do it at your place of employment. However, I have had a student in the past who worked for the state of Washington in a role in a different agency. And so it was perfectly fine to her to go to a different agency to do an organizational consulting project. So if it's something like that and you're not clear from the handbook, feel free to reach out, but do please take the time to read all of the material available first. And next slide, please. And now I'm going to hand it over to, oh, go ahead, Marianne.
I was just going to say, we've had a couple questions in the chat,
Thank you.
and you and I, Dr. Hoffman and I, share something in common, which is the ability to shove a lot of words into a very short amount of time and a lot of information. Sheila, can you confirm that the slides will be shared with registrants? And if we can't get a YouTube, maybe we can share out like the Zoom link of the recording?
Yeah, so everyone, I do have access to the emails of people who registered. And so next week I'll be able to email you a link to the Panopto recording as well as our slides in a PDF. Bear with me because we are in a very high volume time here in the office, so I will get those out to you. Preferably, we will have this recording rendered into a YouTube recording and put on our channel. So we are just trying to get some information about who on our staff will be available to do that. So please, thank you for your patience. Back to the regularly scheduled program.
Okay, well, it's great. I guess I'm introducing myself. So, my name is Rae Lynn Haliday. Most people call me Rae. And I have had a hybrid. I think all of the interns that I've worked with from San Jose State, it's come across the different ones that they've talked about today, whether it was 295 or 294, the project-based one. I've had, I think, someone from each one of those, so about 4 or 5 students total. I can't remember which year we placed this. We got this accepted with San Jose State to advertise the internship, but I think it's been at least 4 or 5 years, and it's been amazing. The relationships, the mentorship, the back and forth that I've been able to have with the students from the MARA program and the MLS program, I think have been rewarding for both my department, myself, and the students. So we try to, as a certified records manager, as a certified information governance officer, of credentials in both, I like to include as much of the course exposure to as much of the core components of REM and some of these emerging areas, including AI, um, as much as we can during an internship. So it could include one of our digitization projects in our department, or it could be some of the other related departments that we are assisting with digital transformation. Data quality, you know what? Analysis, everything you do in records management, whether you're doing active records, legacy records, policies, procedures, um, you are analyzing something. So analysis is a big part of what we do as records managers. So you're going to get some of that in everything that you do in the internship. We also have a pretty robust training program. Our interns get to take that training. That's the first task you have to do is do our online training modules so that when you start working on projects, it's really just some additional hands-on project specific training. And then you can dive right in and start, doing the work assigned to you with each project. We do have a fair amount of compliance related projects that we do. Uh, I work, St. Louis Zoo is highly regulated. All of our activities that we do with wildlife, whether it's exhibiting animals or shipping animals, importing, exporting animals, doing education with biofacts and things like that, everything is regulated. So, and with that compliance comes a lot of impact to records management. So it's pretty cool from that standpoint. It also increases awareness about jobs that are records management jobs in zoos and aquariums. One of my newest employees started out as an extern. She was already done with school, so she didn't do an internship. But then we had another internship from another ICRM academic partner school who discovered in the internship that she loves records management, but she also loves animals, and she had no idea you could do that in zoos. She ended up becoming a registrar for a well-known zoo in the zoo profession. So the why in our successful virtual internship program, I do think that because we have such a strong virtual program, it really does appeal to those of you that are in an online academic degree program. The accessibility aspect of that is significant. I am working because we have a well-established virtual internship program now. I work with students from 6 or 7 different universities around the US. We are investigating and trying to get some approval from my employer to offer a paid internship at some point. So we're at the beginning stages of that. But nonetheless, even currently, we get anywhere from 5 to 15 interns a year from those different programs. So I think it's kind of competitive at this point, but we do try to give as many students access to what we do as possible. I am highly invested in student success. And like I said, many of our interns stay on willingly. They want to stay on and work on the projects that they've started on to see them completed. And of course, that gives them more time in the trenches working with what I hope is a REM program that is, established and set in global best practices for REM at a major employer. St. Louis Zoo is a large zoo. It's a pillar of our community. We get over 3 million people a year that come to the St. Louis Zoo. Plus, we have 2 additional properties. So it is good on your resume. And then I also work with students on the professional development, the opportunities that the wider profession has to making sure that they are aware of those opportunities. One of those is the ARMA Student Ambassador Program. So I have nominated a lot of our interns and externs. I teach also, so I also work with students. I can't have a student interning for me while I'm teaching, But I have had a few of my former students, after they were out of my course and I was no longer teaching, they were able to come, and Andy's one of those examples. So, okay, let's get the next slide. I was trying to advance it myself and realized I don't have the power to do that. Can someone advance to the next slide? Thank you. So students must create and use a couple of the requirements of the internship. Once you're onboarded, I'm not sure, did we miss a slide? There we go. Good, thank you. You'll first do an interview with me, and then we will have you submit your application. The application process on San Jose State, there's a link there where it takes you to the zoo's actual volunteer services department. We actually don't use that. The student, if they will contact me directly at the email provided, the easier way to do it is for me to send you the application that I use for my students, because I have so many. I don't really have to go through their process, which is everyone is submitting applications for all kinds of internships throughout the zoo, all different departments. When I use the application they've given me to use with my students, they just are with interns specifically that are coming through the San Jose State site or some of the other academic partners I work with. I just send them that, they complete it, they send it back to me, I send it into volunteer services. Total process is about 2 weeks to be approved. They do a background check. They no longer, for virtual interns and for my interns, they no longer have the requirement for the drug testing. So the time involved to get approved is a little less than it used to be. You do have to complete an NDA once you're approved. That's one of the first things I'll have you do. We'll get an email address account issued. You'll use that email address specific to the St. Louis Zoo for all the work that you do. You'll complete your NDA, and then I will assign the online training. One of those is all the policies and procedures that you have to adhere to. And then we have training for both of our 2 core systems interns will be working in. One of them is the Zoological Information Management System, which is all of the data, all of the animal records that animal keepers, veterinarians, a lot of different people do direct entry into that system 24/7, 365 days a year. So the data quality control process that we have is looking at collection activity that's reported to our department, what the keepers enter, what we enter, and we look to make sure that the source information, the reports, matches up to what was actually entered in the database. Then we have our electronic document management system, which is a lot of documentation is held in there, a lot of different types of documentation, but we are also doing big legacy system digitization projects, which is such a great opportunity for students that are getting records and information management, information governance type degree, because, most likely those are the kinds of systems you're going to be working in when you get a job, or you're already working in now. So it just gives you another example of systems and how they work and what you can do with them, and what the AI component is with those systems, because that is certainly something a lot of us are having to deal with and look at. We'll do a work plan for you with all the various projects included. Usually the quality control is the first project after you take your training. And then depending on the number of hours that you have to complete, what our needs are at the time, which projects need to be completed first, that's how I prioritize what the students work on. You might also get an opportunity to develop a training course. The same types of courses that you had to take to learn how to do the work, we're always finding that we need a training course to train interns, to train externs or new hires on specific projects. That just makes it faster, it makes it much faster for people to learn the projects. They're there for a short period of time. The better the training can be, the more we can, obviously accomplish. Next slide. Um, the way we manage the virtual thing, these are really important aspects of it being successful for us and you. So once you're onboarded and you've completed your training and you start your first projects, we will have you create an email, and that will just be a continuous thread. You just reply and send it from the same thread. Every day you're working asynchronously, you will just, at which time you stop work, you'll send that email that says what you were able to do, your progress, and then any questions in the area you need feedback where we can give you immediate, answers to your questions. That's way you're not doing work incorrectly and having to go back and redo something. So we try to be as responsive as we can to keep you moving along without issues. You will enter your time in the zoo's volunteer timekeeping system. That includes any recurring meetings that you'll have. We'll have a recurring meeting every week so we can see each other on Zoom. We can talk about, whatever you need to talk about. We can provide guidance, additional training. And all of that, your training, your meetings, and then your actual work are time that counts towards meeting your hours. And then we'll do a final St. Louis Zoo evaluation. And this is provided once your hours are met. We're at the last date of the internship, and then you can take a copy of that with you. And depending on project, students may be offered an opportunity to continue on as an extern. We just kind of see how it goes. We gauge the students' interest. And then if there's enough work, you may get that opportunity to do that. I think that was my last slide. Yep.
That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of those
You're welcome.
fine details about what a sophisticated internship program you have built, and we're so lucky that we're part of it. I'm excited to introduce Andy from the MARA program. He's going to share a little bit with you folks about his experience doing an internship, and after that, we'll transition into a few minutes of Q&A for all the panelists.
Thanks, Sheila. So I was writing some notes down here about kind of my experience. I can't stress the importance enough of doing internships and this kind of thing. In my undergrad for film and video production, I had 2 internships, which both proved beneficial in their own ways. I mean, specific benefits. I mean, a lot of things have been covered by the panel already, but you find out what you like and what you don't like. Obviously, it looks good on a resume. It'll build your network, and it may open a door at a position post-grad for you at the company because you are known and they know your work quality and stuff like that. So from a company perspective, a known entity is always better than some stranger on the internet. Also, I would encourage you, if you do the internship or whatever configuration it takes, is to make sure you get a recommendation letter as well, as that always helps. I've done volunteer work at film archives, and I plan to volunteer at an auto museum after graduation, just because those are fun things for me. I wish I'd looked into what SJSU has to offer in regards to the internship program, the different variations earlier. So it's great that you're all here getting yourselves informed, because you can't do it soon enough. Even if it's your first semester, I would still start thinking about it. I was notoriously late with all deadlines all the time, everywhere. So it's always good to, especially in the asynchronous learning environment, to do that. I was at ARMA InfoCon in Phoenix with Rae, Sheila, and Dr. Hofman, and Sheila and Dr. Hofman and I were at the SJSU booth, and I was really surprised at the number and variety of companies who stop by and who are interested in setting up internships with SJSU. So there's a lot of variety there for sure. And you might find something that you didn't realize would be something that you'd be interested in. I appreciate Dr. Hoffman mentoring me and providing the guidance and getting my internship set up with Rae, which I did over the summer of this past summer. It was 3 credits, and I found it to be totally manageable. You just got to budget your time like anything else in this kind of asynchronous world. It was great exposure. Interesting to see how records management and microfilm and AI are kind of integrated into zoo life, which I never really thought it was a thing, but it is definitely a thing. And it was really interesting to kind of look through all the past records and see just the journeys that the animals take too, which is kind of neat. I got some experience with data migration and electronic records management system, DocuWare, that is commonly used. Which again, put it on your resume. That's a buzzword that somebody might see that might put you up above somebody else. Some experience with microfilm processing and AI and OCR, which are big buzzwords as well. If you like animals, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of opportunities there in the future, and it may lead to a zoo position somewhere, which you may not have considered before. And I really value the experience working at the zoo with Rae. As far as going forward in the real world, I'm actually working with an aviation museum here locally in Southern California. And instead of bombarding them with my ideas, my first kind of meeting with them, I asked them what they needed. And it was kind of funny because they said, "Well, we've got this room full of microfilm that would be really great to get digital." I'm like, "Really? Well, I just did an internship working with microfilm this summer." So it actually absolutely dovetailed. I didn't plan it. I'm not lying. It just worked. So you don't know where your experiences are going to take you or what benefit they'll have for you. So can't recommend it enough. Thanks.
Okay, that was fantastic. We're
Um,
at the point in the
Can I follow up on something really quick? And because I think it's important, which is that Andy mentioned going right up to the deadline. And honestly, I think that works if there's an internship in our database. If that internship is not in our database and you want to do an internship, please, please, please start early. There is a requirement for each internship site that they have what is called a university organization agreement in place. It's a contract between the site and the university, and it's required by the CSU system, which means it has to go through the CSU lawyers. And if there are any changes that are going to be made to that, and people working in K-12 schools should pay particularly close attention to this because that is where it frequently happens.
Yeah.
But changes that are happening to that agreement can take up to 10 weeks to get approved. So it's very important that you get started on this as early as possible.
Mine was more of a cautionary tale.
Yeah, right. It works, I think, better if it's in the database. But if it's not in the database, people can get surprised. Okay, other questions?
yeah, so we can just continue to use the webinar chat to place our questions and I can moderate. We have a question from Eric, older student, retired film editor, took a community college class in library tech before entering the MLIS. Love the mission environment, students and teachers. I'm really hoping to do a hybrid or in-person internship at a community college or a small college that shares similar qualities next fall. Any guidance?
So I would start with that there are a number of community colleges and smaller colleges. I just approved one for Laney, for example, Laney College in Oakland within the last week. So I would start with our database and start with trying to maybe filter by that type of institution and look for what is available. A lot of the institutions will say, hey, we're looking for somebody for spring of 2026, summer of 2026, fall of 2026. And so you can even like say, oh, here's who I want to start communicating with. Um, and that way you can reach out in that way.
I will say there's a nice feature on our internship site database is if you go below the toggles with all the options, the newest internships appear right there. So the ones that Dr. Harlan has just approved, they appear underneath that. So you get to see the hot, fresh ones and get in there and apply for those early. Okay, we have a few more questions coming through. Dr. Harlan, do you have additional content to add? Um, we'll go to, boy, these are going through quickly. I should have had the
I just
Q&A.
said the chat just blew up a little.
I should have had the
I'll start
Q&A.
reviewing them.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the Q&A. I'm sorry. I'm going to close the chat so that we can use the Q&A. It's a lot easier. You guys can access the Q&A. We will go through all the webinar questions, but we'll transition over to the Q&A for incoming questions.
And while she's doing that, Evelyn, I do believe that doing ePortfolio and internship at the same time is doable. Andy is nodding. Sounds like he did something similar. It is just about managing your time, but I do think it is manageable.
So Kara asks if volunteer work counts as work experience. It can be a way as to shore up something that you don't have, especially when you're applying for your first internships and that sort of thing. I find it's often harder to make the case to an employer. It's part of the reason that women who stay at home have a really hard time getting career on track again, because the skills that you have don't necessarily get counted by employers if you haven't done them in some sort of like documented way with an organization. So it can help, but it's not going to be a full substitute for a lot of folks.
I
I'm
will
going to
read. Oh,
go ahead and work through Nora's
Nora.
questions.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So her first question, if a student secures an internship before the semester begins, how early can they submit the paperwork? As early as you want. I can't issue you the information that you need to register until the university issues it, but that doesn't mean you can't submit it. So I've had people submit, well, like in October for next spring. If you already have a confirmed internship site, you need, and they are not in our database, you need to reach out to me with your site supervisor so I can get them in your database and we can get that university organization agreement in place. That is a sticking point, that UOA. So that's why we really recommend early. If internships offer cross-departmental experience, for example, yes, you can structure your learning objectives to reflect multiple areas of responsibility. And what expectations and responsibilities site supervisors need to fulfill, such as check-ins, evaluations. Rae, can you answer that to talk a little bit about what you were expected to do in terms of time and those sorts of things?
Can you repeat the first part of your question?
Sure. The question is, what expectations and responsibilities do site supervisors need to fulfill, such as check-ins, evaluations, and documentation, and how much time should they typically plan to commit? And I can answer part of that, but it might be better coming from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have those memorized or anything, but I mean, I think it's just baked in at this point where our process meets the school requirements because we're highly engaged with the students. They're working every week, they're working most days. We have regular meetings, we have regular email communications, and they are completing training, which is documented in our system. They are completing projects. I mean, most of the time, we are able to move something to the next phase or complete it because of the work that the interns have done, and we document that in detail in their St. Louis Zoo evaluation, which they get a copy of. So, a lot of times we're saying, this thing was completed because of the work of the intern. If the intern hadn't completed these tasks, we would not be able to do this. We would not be able to move this forward or advance this initiative to the next phase or to roll something out. Like, for instance, one of the interns completed the training course for part of our digitization project. That, like, lessened the load on the staff of not having to do that training sort of in a Zoom meeting or stuff. They created an online course, and now that's one of the first things we do is we assign that training. And by the time the student actually gets to the part where we're working on the project, they all already have a really good idea of what to do. Does that answer your question? It's like I'm not checking a box going, okay, I met that requirement, met that requirement. I just think the program speaks for itself that the stuff that gets done, the things that students learn, and the amount of time they're putting in, there's no way they couldn't have met the requirement.
So Rae is amazing and does a lot. That it differs a little in some other sites, but they
Yeah.
are required to meet with you and
Yep.
be in contact via email
Yep.
or Zoom meetings or in person and oversee your work. There is an evaluation that we request at the end of the semester. Um, like I said, they also should be looking over your course learning objectives and helping you write those. So those are
Yeah.
that's like the most basic level. I would hope that all
Okay.
site supervisors were as hands-on-y as Rae, but we don't always have that.
Well,
But
I
that's the
teach
basic level.
also. I teach also, so I try to apply the same requirements that the school has for how we engage with students in teaching and all of that. So it's just to me, it's just like the same thing. So
Okay, let's go to the next question in our Q&A, which you can access from the strip at the bottom of your browser window. Do we have to take the class if we apply to an internship from the database? I'm asking because there are still a number of electives I want to take, and it costs money to actually take Info 294 versus just doing the internship.
Yes, we would prefer it.
Yes, because they're reserved for people who need credits, right? For
Right,
the
right.
for
They're reserved for people
the
who need the
grade.
credits. Yeah.
Michael asks, I will not be eligible for an internship yet because I'm starting and short of the 19 units. I want to know what I can do to prepare for internships while I complete the required units.
I believe a number of people do that in the situation and Dara, and I'm curious if this is how it works for you guys in Mara as well, but who will do that especially if it is an internship that is not in our database but that they're uh working towards. Um and that will eventually go into our database. And so, yes, you can. But yeah, it's not, yes, you can. That's a simple answer.
Well, and some of the things you can do on the way would be things like making sure that, keep track of the things that you're doing and learning and skills you're getting through the coursework, right? So when you start putting those internship applications together, you know what you actually enjoyed, right? Like, I love metadata. I think metadata is the coolest thing ever. A lot of people do not share that feeling, right? So for someone like me, a role that requires a lot of metadata would be awesome. For someone who is like, I need more people, less metadata, thank you, you would be looking at different sets. So paying attention, getting to know yourself through the process as well as the field is one thing you could do to help prepare yourself. And then also, being able to go when you apply for these internships, say, what do I need to learn? What's going to help get me where I want to go?
Michael has a follow-up question, which is asking it whether he could reach out to the supervisor and network ahead of actually applying for the internship. What are your recommendations on that?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ray is saying yes. I think both Dr. Hoffman and I would agree that that is an appropriate a step to take.
Andy can tell you I have shamelessly pushed him to network for the entire 4 years I've worked with him.
Yeah, and to my benefit, I kicked and screamed, but I did go, and I was glad that I did go. So thank you.
As far as preparation things, Michael, some things that I recommend to students in the student services appointments is take advantage of your resources at iSchool, such as booking an appointment with Kim Doherty, our career consultant, having your resumes and cover letters critiqued by our consultant at the Career Center, who is Carrie McKnight. So before you're ready to apply for the internship, have all your materials looked at and revised, and then just making sure your social media, your LinkedIn is up to date. If you have projects from your classes, you can actually add those to your LinkedIn as files. So let's go to the next question. Teresa asks, can we re-elaborate that university agreement thing, how would I explain that to a potential site supervisor?
The more common term is an MOU or Memorandum of Understanding. So if you tell your site supervisor that you need an MOU with the university, they'll know, is the thing. But again, this is a place where reach out to me and let me reach out to the site supervisor because I have all of the information and details. I will also tell you that there is a site supervisor handbook that is available and open on our website if you're curious about what it is from their perspective or what we're suggesting for them.
Ava
When
asks, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask her real quick, Mary Ann, you said the MOU. Are you referring to like a site receptor agreement?
That might be what you guys call it. Yeah, I mean, it's been
Okay,
named a
I just
number
want to
of
make sure.
different things. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a contract that says
Yeah.
that
Yep.
covers liability issues,
Yep.
essentially.
Yep.
So Ava asks, the organization I am considering told me they were already in your database, but I don't see them listed in the drop-down menu. Is there another place I should check?
This is yet another place where I'm going to ask you to directly reach out to me. Um, my name is on the screen and it's Marianne.Harlan at SJSU. Um, uh, and when I keep saying that, and I'm also linked on the webpage in a million different places, but it's possible they just need to update. And I can go into the older internship and see if it's because they need to update the university organization agreement, if they just need to say, hey, yeah, we do want somebody in spring of 2026, and I just need to hit a checkbox. There are just a few little things there. So if you let me know who the organization is, I can look into that for you because I have back end access.
Okay, we have reached the end of the open questions. If there are any more questions, we have a couple minutes. I will go ahead and ask Dr. Hofman and Dr. Harlan and Rae as well. Have there been any little anecdotes you might share with us or tips, or have there ever been any my lights just went off, sorry. Have there ever been any disappointments where internship placements didn't work out? And what would those obstacles look like? Or do you have any other things to share?
Oh, wait, or make sure no one else is ready to speak.
Go ahead.
There was another question in the background chat I was just handling. Um, so anecdotes, issues to share, is that what you asked?
Yeah, anything, little nuggets of advice, anything.
I would just say one of the things that, and again, whether I'm teaching a course or I'm doing an internship, I really have a strong appreciation for whether you're in mid-career going back trying to get your master's or you're making a switch to a completely different field. Maybe your life changed after COVID or whatever prompted it, or you're trying to make a shift, you're trying to advance yourself in your career. Doing programs online and even doing these internships online, just the relationship development piece of trying to navigate that, especially if you're completely switching careers or you're just brand new, you're emerging professional coming in, um, building the relationships. And that's why I said the leadership and advocacy, self-advocacy to begin with is so important. Those relationships, you may have to put more effort than you feel like you need to, or maybe you're an introvert and that's hard for you. Whatever the case is, I just can't stress it enough. And I really try to work in those internships. I try to get students, if they're struggling in those areas, as much information as I can to help them engage, to get them to a conference through the ambassador program or whatever it takes, because you're in a fabulous program and hopefully you're going to have a credential behind your name. But all of that is great. It's great to be great, but it's all about people. when you're a records manager, it's all about all the people that you are supposed to be servicing and helping and advancing and taking care of all those resources for your organization. You cannot do this job in isolation. And so the sooner you dig into building the relationships and being a great advocate for yourself and what you need to run a department, the program, what you need to advance your skills, the sooner you do that, the better. So I just wanted to impart that, just wanted to share that to me, that is such an important part if anyone that's doing an internship or working with students, that should be emphasized.
I will say I've had one student who really struggled with a particular placement and then did okay with Rae. So, and a lot of that was about kind of flexibility and expectation, because you don't know what a site is going to be like until you go there. And I know quite a few other students who did fine, just fine in the site the students struggled with. And so making sure that you have a certain degree of openness and flexibility, that it's not necessarily going to be what you've made up in your imagination, can make a big difference into how well you enjoy and succeed in the site.
This is interesting because I think this actually responds to Teresa's question in the webinar, which is additional benefit of signing up for Info 294 if you have an internship that, just doing it as an on-site professional thing. And one of those is that there is support if you are doing it through a 294 with Dr. Hofman or with myself or the organizational, where if you are struggling, you can reach out to us. And we can help you navigate that with your soft skills and how to build out those skills and sort of mentor you through any sort of placement concerns that you are having, in a way that if you are just out there on your own, you may not necessarily. So you may not necessarily be able to, yeah, there are things that can go wrong. Almost always that is not the case, but if those things do go wrong, it is helpful to have an organization like San Jose State and professors like Dr. Hofman and myself who can help you navigate that.
Yeah.
I would like to say one other thing that Dr. Hoffman brought up in regards to personal development is take advantage of the iSchool travel grant program, either as a volunteer or just as a participant. It doesn't get enough. From what I've understood, people don't utilize it enough, so I just thought I'd mention that. I'm glad that I did, and I appreciate, again, Dr. Hoffman doing the nudging on that. So it really helps, especially if you are an introvert like myself. It forces you to get out there and meet people and meet people outside of this box, which is also fun too. So
That's great. What an excellent panel we've had today. I'm so excited that this came together. Um, Students, I hope you enjoyed interacting with all of our panelists. I want to thank them for spending some part of their lunch break with us today. Thank you so much. We will send out the link to this recording hopefully next week. Again, we have so many resources on our website, so you can find a lot of the answers to your questions. Follow up with iSchool at sjsu.edu. That's the student services email address, and we can point you in the direction. Thank you again to all of our panelists, and I hope everyone has a lovely holiday next week. We appreciate everyone for joining in this community discussion.
Thank you for putting this together, Sheila.
yeah,
Oh,
thanks,
my
Sheila.
absolute
Take care,
pleasure.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for
Safe
coming.
travels.
Great discussion.
Okay, bye.